House Intel Chairman Adam Schiff made his first big move tonight, announcing a sweeping investigation into President Donald Trump and voting to turn the transcripts of the congressional interviews with Donald Trump Jr. and Hope Hicks and others over to the special counsel Robert Mueller for cross-checking, wasting no time firing back from the president.
He's just a political hack who's trying to build a name for himself, and I think that's fine because that's what they do. But there would be no reason to do that. No other politician has to go through that. It's called presidential harassment, and it's unfortunate, and it really does hurt our country.
Joining me now, former prosecutor and Congressman, Fox News contributor Trey Gowdy. Good to see you tonight, Trey. Thanks for being here. I also want to put up a tweet by Adam Schiff and get your thoughts on this. He says, I can understand why the idea of a meaningful oversight terrifies the president. Several of his close associates are going to jail. Others await trial, and criminal investigations continue. We're going to do our job and won't be distracted or intimidated by threats or attacks, he writes. What say you, sir?
I just wish Adam would be intimidated by the facts. The 2 years that I worked with him on the Russia probe, Adam was wrong about collusion. Remember, he said he had evidence that was more than circumstantial but not quite direct, that the president colluded with Russia. He was wrong about Donald Trump Jr. and who he called before and after the meeting at Trump Tower. Adam has also leaked incorrect information to media outlets. I wish Adam were serious about oversight. There's a lot that needs to be done in the intelligence community about leaks, about FISA. He's not interested in that. He is interested in undoing the 2016 election results. And he needs facts for that. And so far, his intimidation has only been by that.
You know, I mean, it's interesting to me because as you point out, he said early on that he had seen evidence that there was collusion. So I'm just wondering, you know, I mean, none of us know what is in the Mueller report, but I wonder what his response is going to be if they don't find collusion. You know, well, nobody knows what else they might see in there. But I mean, how's he going to react, and where's his evidence going to be if indeed that report disappoints him?
I just hope he's asked. I mean, I'll just settle for someone in the D.C. print media asking Adam a follow-up question. He said he had evidence of collusion between Russia and President Trump before Bob Mueller was ever appointed. He had evidence of collusion before anybody else did, according to Adam Schiff. So why is he not constantly asked, as a Republican would be and should be, if you claim you have evidence, direct evidence of collusion, what is it? And he's either not asked or he's not forced to respond. Yeah,
and if that's the case, I think, you know, most of America would certainly like to know what happened, because everybody would certainly want to know that if that was indeed the case. In terms of Mr. Nadler, Congressman Nadler, who is heading up the committee, and he is asking for Mark Whitaker, the acting attorney general, who's coming in on February 8th to testify about why or why not, you know, what his process was on not recusing himself from the Russia investigation when he became acting attorney general. Then they said they were going to subpoena him also, even though he said he was going to come and talk to them.
Yeah, there are three reasons that Jerry Nadler did that. Number one, so you and I would be talking about it, and others would be talking about the acting AG being under subpoena. Number two, it does compel attendance, but Matt's already said he's coming. Thirdly, and importantly, and what I don't think your viewers know is when Matt says, I can't answer that question because it's privileged, I can't answer that question because it's an ongoing investigation, if you're under subpoena, it makes it much easier for the committee to compel you to answer. That's why they're doing it. They're not worried about him not showing up. He's already said he's coming. Although, Martha, I hope he doesn't. He's going to be the AG for about another week. He's got about another week, so he's certainly not going to talk about his vision for the Department of Justice. He can't talk about Mueller. He can't talk about Rosenstein. He can't talk about any ongoing investigation, and he can't talk about communications he's had with the president. So what's he going to talk about? He's not going to be there in a week. So, look, Matt's got access to much better legal minds than mine, but I think I'd have a cold Friday if I were him. And then by this time next week, Bill Barr will have been confirmed, and he can come answer all of Jerry Nadler's questions. But Whitaker's got, what, a week left on the job?
Good point. Good point. Trey Gowdy, thank you very much. Good to see you as always, sir. See you next time.
The White House and Republicans across the country are going to realize what happens when you lose power in the House. And the committee chairs flip across the board. And they have lined things up in a significant way. Not only Jerry Nadler, but Adam Schiff has threatened to go deep into tax returns on behalf of Donald Trump. We'll see whether or not that goes anywhere. John Radcliffe, a moment ago, we asked him how far that could go. And Nancy Pelosi said it's going to take a while. You know, this isn't something where you just fire off a letter and get an answer immediately. Hogan Gitley, Deputy White House spokesperson, with me now from the North Lawn. Hogan, good morning to you. Thank you for your time. I want to squeeze a few questions in here before we get underway. I know the president is not happy with Adam Schiff. He's made that quite clear. How far do you think Adam Schiff can go in his inquiries?
Well, look, that's a question for Adam Schiff. The president outlined a message at the State of the Union which was very clear. The Democrats have a choice here. They can either choose America's greatness, they can choose to move forward this country and help out the American people, or they can mire this country in endless, pointless, needless investigations that have no merit and warrant no time whatsoever. It's absolutely pointless to have these conversations when the president has done nothing wrong. Everyone knows it. Years of investigations, years of paperwork, and countless interviews and conversations. The president did nothing wrong. He's been very clear about that, and they have a choice to make here. There's a big and bold agenda the president laid out in that State of the Union, moving this country forward to do all types of things, from infrastructure to immigration reform, changing drug prices to make them lower, health care. And if they're going to sit back and choose investigations, they're going to waste a lot of time, money, and energy that should be spent elsewhere.
What do you think we learned today from Matthew Whitaker's testimony, Hogan?
I can't get ahead of that, obviously, but I know what we learned yesterday, and that is the fact that Chairman Nadler tried to force private conversations to be public when he knows they are protected by law. And so that right there tells you he's playing politics that is petty and pointless, and he needs to focus instead, as I mentioned before, on moving the president's agenda forward, the agenda of the American people, doing things for them, the average man and woman across this country, instead of focusing on petty partisan politics. I mean, it was a hackish move. He's a political hack, and we've got to move forward.
Let's see what we get from it, okay? I'm just trying to squeeze in a few more topics before we go to the hearing. There is a call to, on behalf of Mick Mulvaney, to go to Camp David over the weekend for the members of Congress working on this border security committee. Does the White House sense a deal is about to be made?
Well, one thing about that, I just talked to the Chief of Staff, Mick Mulvaney, moments ago, and this has no agenda whatsoever. He wants to build relationships with former colleagues and friends in Congress, but also forge new relationships with those who've just come into office. He thinks that's important for us to move forward. And again, the agenda for the president is bold and robust, and he wants to talk to them about that. But there's no agenda. There's no set conversation about border security. I'm sure it'll come up, but it's not a formal meeting by any stretch.
I see.
That being said,
to assume that you're closer to getting a deal here would not be accurate, right?
No, I wouldn't say that. Listen, our staffs here are in constant contact with folks in the conference committee. We expect them to do their jobs and put forth a package that actually protects the American people, keeps the government open, and funds it at responsible levels. The president has been very clear about what he wants and his constitutional duty, that is to protect the American people. We obviously gave him a few more days to figure that out. We're coming up on the deadline. And look, it's all a time crunch at this point, and they've got to come to a solution that actually does what they promised they would do, which is protect the American people. We expect no less. And quite frankly, the American people deserve it.
Last point. New Green Deal. What's the reaction of the White House that was unveiled yesterday on behalf of some Democrats?
It's quite rich for Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez to point out the fact that we need to ruin our economy and stop all air travel and stop all cars in several years, when she said the world's going to end in 12 anyway. So, I mean, the whole thing just seems kind of pointless. Look, the economy is robust like it's never been before. This president has single-handedly turned it around, and now Democrats are running on crushing all of those gains and crushing the middle class and destroying any opportunity we have for growth in the future. And the line's been drawn here. I mean, the American people got to see in that State of the Union speech what they did, what the Democrats did not stand up for. They did not stand up for America's greatness, and that's obvious with this new Green Deal that has no chance of going anywhere.
Hogan Gidley, thank you for your time. We are crunched on time, as you can clearly see. Thank you, sir, from the North.